The Birth of a Nation. In a land of 13 colonies ruled by a distant king across a wide ocean lived a farmer named Silas and his son Caleb. They worked the rich soil of Massachusetts, but the air itself felt heavy, thick with the whispers of freedom and the weight of the king's laws. "The crown's laws are a heavy yoke, son," Silas would say, his eyes fixed on the far horizon. "A man ought to be master of his own house and his own destiny." From the bustling, salty port of Boston to the quietest inland villages, a fire of defiance was being kindled. Men spoke in taverns of taxation without representation, and, in a bold act of protest, dumped the king's tea into the cold harbor water. In the evenings, Silas would meet with his neighbors, their voices low, but their resolve as hard as New England granite. Then came the sudden, sharp crack of musket fire at Lexington and Concord. The whispers of rebellion turned into a roar that echoed through the hills. Silas knew he could no longer just work his fields, while others fought for his liberty. He cleaned his long-idled musket and told his wife, Abigail, "I must go. I fight for our home and for Caleb's future." Silas joined other farmers, blacksmiths, and merchants, a citizen army bound not by discipline, but by a powerful shared idea. They were not polished soldiers in bright uniforms, but their hearts beat with the spirit of liberty. They drilled on village greens, learning the hard trade of war, preparing for the great fight to come. In the city of Philadelphia, the most thoughtful and respected men from each colony gathered for the Second Continental Congress. "We must unite, or we shall surely perish separately," urged the fiery John Adams of Massachusetts. Benjamin Franklin, his face a map of wisdom and wit, nodded in solemn agreement. To lead their new Continental Army, they chose a Virginian planter, a tall and commanding man of quiet dignity named George Washington. He accepted the monumental task with humility and steely determination, knowing the long and difficult road that stretched before them all. The war was not a thing of glory, but of mud and biting cold and gnawing hunger. Silas marched alongside men and boys, their feet often wrapped in rags against the frozen ground. A young drummer boy, no older than Caleb, beat a steady, defiant rhythm that became the Army's weary, unbreakable heartbeat. While the Army fought, a quieter, more profound battle of words was waged in Philadelphia. A young, eloquent delegate named Thomas Jefferson was tasked with drafting a declaration. With the wise counsel of men like Franklin, he wrote words that would change the world, words of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On a clear, hot day in July of 1776, the Declaration of Independence was read aloud from the steps of the State House. In towns and villages across the land, people gathered to hear the news. Abigail held Caleb's hand tightly as they listened among their neighbors. A new nation, conceived in liberty, was born. But a declaration was only a promise, not a victory. The war raged on, testing the new nation's resolve. In a stroke of genius and daring, General Washington led his men across the treacherous, icy Delaware River for a surprise attack, snatching a crucial victory from the jaws of what seemed certain defeat. The tide of the war began to turn, with a great, hard-won victory at Saratoga. Silas and his comrades fought with renewed vigor, proving to a watching world that the Continental Army could stand and defeat the mighty British regulars. This victory convinced the Kingdom of France that America's cause was worth supporting. Yet the following winter at Valley Forge tested the Army's very soul. Food was scarce, disease was rampant, and the cold was a relentless, invisible enemy. General Washington walked among his men, sharing their suffering, his quiet, steadfast presence, a silent promise that he would not abandon them. Inspired by the American struggle for freedom, a young and idealistic French nobleman, the Marquis de Lafayette, crossed the ocean to offer his sword and his fortune to the cause. He quickly earned Washington's trust and became a brilliant commander and a symbol of foreign aid. With the powerful help of the French fleet and army, the war moved south for its final act. At Yorktown, Virginia, the combined American and French forces trapped the main British army against the sea. Silas found himself fighting alongside a French soldier, their different languages no barrier to their shared goal of liberty. The siege was a success. Inside a large tent, the British commander, General Cornwallis, formally surrendered to the American forces. The long, difficult war was finally over. The world watched in amazement as the mighty British army was defeated, their fifes and drums playing the mournful tune, "The World Turned Upside Down." In the grand halls of Paris, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay negotiated the peace. They were no longer rebels in the eyes of the world, but respected representatives of a new, free, and independent nation. They secured the treaty that officially recognized the United States of America. Silas, older and wearier, but with the bright light of freedom in his eyes, finally walked the long road home. Caleb, now a young man, ran from the farmhouse to meet him. The farm was still there, the future was uncertain, but it was their own. The great American experiment had begun.
If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more meaningful stories.